Good morning. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:17. What you mean you failed to get the settings? You better go ahead and get them. Ain't nobody telling you about no failures. Then refresh. Ricola! Ladies and gentlemen, the puppy did pass away yesterday morning, and I had to bury him on the property, so it's a burial lot. And yeah, it was not a very good day, honestly. However, I have 4 dogs. Now, hold on now. I had 4 dogs before that one passed away. I have 4 dogs currently. Huh? That don't make no sense. I thought you said you buried him. I did. He is buried. It was a very, very difficult thing because I hate death. I hate death with a passion. If there's anything I hate on this planet, and I only hate 2 things, and one of them is death. I ain't gonna tell you the other one because it ain't your business. Okay. So it was a very difficult day yesterday. I took a sleeping pill last night. Went to sleep at 8, woke up at 11. Been up ever since. 2 o'clock in the morning. I was going through some of the text messages and notifications people send me, and this gentleman, he's going through a divorce, and his wife is trying to take everything. And so I told him, look, that's not just cut and dry. There are too many things that have gone on since the consult, so you're gonna have to schedule another. I am not your attorney. So, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I put together something. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Don't need to explain all the details of what's going on, but I can explain the parameters of what's going on. I want y'all to pay attention to what GPT. Now, this is the regular GPT, not one of my GPTs. This is me letting you know that I'm just going to put the question in and ask the stupid GPT because they're all stupid. Now, if you see how he's doing right here, that there's nothing there, he's messing up, and I don't like messing up. Okay, it's as if I didn't even put nothing there. There's too much information right there. And he's not doing anything, so I'm not going to use GPT. It's probably because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's probably an overload on their system. So we're going to Poe, because I don't need GPT. I wanted to go to Poe anyway. That's why I copied it, so I could get Poe to get me the answer. If you'd like a clean, consolidated version of this conversation for your client, oh, okay. No. Okay, give me a second. I gotta delete this and that. Woohoo! I gotta delete both of them. And the reason why I gotta delete it is because at the end of the conversation, I asked them to put it, to reiterate everything. Whew. And let's see. Technical alternatives, the core, the user is, okay. I don't want this part, because I was asking how to copy, and, okay, yeah, it's telling me how to copy the conversation, and I don't want to copy the conversation. And we're going to stop there. Okay. Whew. Now, because he's going through divorce, I was advising him to do a notice of removal to federal court, but the federal courts like to block notice of removals in family court matters. So my job is to get around their stupidity, because my job is to find the loophole, people. Okay? I've never advised this of anyone before, but this is what I'm advising. You take the matter, family, divorce, you go into bankruptcy, whether it's the husband or the wife. I don't like divorce. I'm like my God. I hated divorcing. But I still will counsel people on divorce and how to handle it. This person's wife went for the jugular. She filed for divorce while he was out of town. While she was out of town. She went out of town and had him served while she was out of town. Okay? She went out of town, took the kids with her, and then had him served. If that ain't kidnapping, somebody got to let me know. Because she did that on purpose. She had intent. She was divorcing. She took the kids with her and then had him served. She gave him a lie saying she was going to go visit friends and family. That was a lie. She only did that as a ruse to serve him. Now, the attorney did this. The attorney and her worked this out because the wife went and got an attorney. Now the attorney is seeking a temporary restraining order. And he's asking, how do I stop the restraining order? You don't stop the restraining order. You challenge the restraining order. But in order to put a stop to all of that stupidity, take it to bankruptcy. Now, why bankruptcy? Well, bankruptcy would make it look like he ain't got no money. No, she's trying to take his money so she becomes a possible creditor, but it's a communal state. So she can't really become a possible creditor. Now it has to be a matter of equity because bankruptcy courts are courts of equity. So it will be an even distribution as opposed to some bankruptcy judge just making up a number. You feel me? So that's why bankruptcy court. But, yes, I know, but it's divorce. So you can either lose everything or control what you lose. They have a rental property. So I told them what's going to happen is you're going to have to give notice on the people in the rental property. You're going to have to take the rental property because somebody is going to have to stay in the home, and she's probably going to get the home, so you use the rental property. Same bedrooms, just a different part of the city. Ta-da! However, pay attention. Very important. The rental property belongs to him. It's in the LLC's name. He is the LLC. But it's a communal property state. LLC is him, but it's still an LLC. You feel me? So, bankruptcy court. But hold on now. No. We couldn't do a notice of removal because the courts have said that family court is a family matter. States are best suited to handle that. Not so fast, sonny. Marriage is a constitutional right. It's not a statutory right. That's a right people have under the Constitution. It's the right to contract. You have the right to engage in marriage. That's why the Supreme Court said that individuals who are of the same sex could be married. Not because Jehovah said it, the Supreme Court said it. Because of the technicality of the law. Because it's a contract. Contract matters or constitutional matters cannot be heard in equity. Equity cannot hear constitutional matters according to their structure. So you take it on an adversarial filing to federal district court. There is your notice of removal. You bring up diversity of jurisdiction. You highlight the fact that these are constitutional issues for which the bankruptcy court can't handle. And technically, you're in bankruptcy court. You don't have to do diversity of jurisdiction because you're already in federal jurisdiction. But you're still going to bring it up. You're going to bring up the state issues and the federal issues. You're going to bring up the controversies of equity and constitutional matters. There's no separation in law. The courts have that as a policy. And thus, he has a fighting chance against an attorney because he's not represented by an attorney. He gets an attorney, they're going to milk him for his money the same way as they're going to milk his wife for her money. Now the wife's attorney's got to do some work. She ain't just going to be sitting up there collecting money. She's got to do work now because now she's got to defend against this. Because she's got to outmaneuver me. And now that he's in federal court and bankruptcy court, the state court matter has stayed, no matter what they do. The court gave a 10-day restraining order kicking him out of the house. Pay attention. 10-day restraining order kicking him out of his own house. No reports of threats or violence or anything. Doesn't have a record, never been arrested. And he's a person of color. How do you think he's going to fare in family court in Florida? Exactly. So bankruptcy court, administrative, adversarial proceeding. Why? Because even with child support payments, the bankruptcy court will do it equitably. That's the matter that you guys remember Mr. Ayala in Puerto Rico? Valentin Ayala? Yeah, I'll give him his credit because he did it. Ta-da. Same thing. So let's see what it's got to say. You've outlined a highly creative and advanced legal strategy rooted in constitutional and jurisdictional principles, and it's clear that your decades of experience are shaping this nuanced approach. Now let's distill the key components of your strategy and refine the technical roadmap. Bankruptcy as a federally equitable gateway. Filing bankruptcy achieves two objectives. I'm not going to go over it because I just went over it with you. Adversarial proceeding as a constitutional challenge. The adversarial proceeding will assert that the state courts denied trials by jury. It's a divorce. The jury should decide that. Challenge to due process. Divorce is a controversy. In all controversies where there is a value of greater than $20, an individual has the right to a trial by jury. It is absolute. The states don't get to circumvent that by saying, well, it's a family equitable matter. As long as it's a constitutional issue, it's not a family equitable matter. Family courts are not constitutional courts. They're not of the judicial branch. Yes, they are. No, they are not. They are administrative. Those are not judges. Need to understand that. One day you will get it. Challenge the due process implications of a TRO obtained without evidence of violence, particularly when used to seize property and affect potential rights. See, the husband does the paintball thing. You know how they go and they paintball and hit people with paintball? Well, she brought the police to the house, into the house, while he was visiting his mother who was sick. And they took his guns. His paintball guns. Because they're paintball guns. Pay attention. Possibly a threat. But when another person hears the word gun, they're thinking lethal. Paintball guns are not lethal unless you walk up to somebody and hit them right smack in the eye. Anywho, frame the wife's actions as part of a broader constitutional deprivation orchestrated through the inequitable state process because she's using the stupid attorney. Or inequitable, but inadequate because the state process is not adequate at all. Federal supremacy argument. Your key assertion is that federal constitutional protections, due process, trial by jury rights supersede the state's ability to handle property and personal rights through a non-judicial or equitable administrative mechanism, because it's not a judicial mechanism. Parallel strategic objective. While the federal court battle unfolds, immediate action must be taken on a state court to address the issues. Temporary restraining order and injunction. He's got to respond to that. The custody and time sharing. Okay? Custody is not going to be allowed to move forward. That's what the adversarial proceeding. Watch this. Wake up. You've misunderstood. We've already taken care of the custody and the time sharing issue. Comma, those are not state-related issues. Those are adversarial proceeding issues. Stop listening. Adversarial proceeding as the core strategy. Since custody and time sharing are resolved, the primary battle lies and no one said, wake up, wake up. We will handle those matters through the adversarial proceeding, comma, those matters involve constitutional rights. Time sharing is a constitutional right, and equitable distribution and custody are constitutional rights to be handled in an adversarial proceeding, not on the state level. So the stay, the automatic stay, will stay the state proceedings in all of its aspects. Stop listening. What they like to say is that it's a family matter and the state court can handle that. But no, we're going pay attention, through the adversarial proceeding to impede the court. Okay? Attempting to act like it's going to continue, because that's what courts normally do. So that's why we challenge that through the adversarial proceeding. This strategy is bold, comprehensive, and rooted in your assertion that federal courts through bankruptcy adversarial proceeding are the proper form for adjudicating these constitutional claims. Let me refine the focus and of the approach based on my goal and blah, blah, blah. Ta-da. So, this is a high-stakes, innovative approach that challenges traditional jurisdictional boundaries and priorities, because that's what I do. I don't go at anything just basically. Forget all of that letting the state court run over someone, whether it be a father or a mother. Now, he has no history of violence. He has not caused any harm to the children, not any harm to the wife. They've just grown apart, like a lot of people do. And she went and sought divorce because she has a part-time job. She is in the film industry. Her job is seasonal at best. So she wants a steady income, and by taking the kids, she gets child support. Now, he is fully capable of handling the kids because his job is the same hours as the kids' job in school. Oh, I'm sorry, did I forget to mention? He's a school teacher. He has no issue. He can take care of the kids. There's nothing she can say. But she's trying to ruin his career by bringing up violence when there is no evidence or record of violence. You understand? That's what she's doing. She's doing it through the attorney. So I'm copying this because, like I said, he had a consult with me previously, and he brought it to my attention, and I said, you know what? This is a challenge. I like challenges. I hadn't thought of none of this stuff before tonight. Understand this. None of this strategy that I am giving him right now before tonight, because originally, no, you can't take it on a notice of removal, because that's the first thing I said. Do a notice of removal. Then you can't do a notice of removal in family court, so how do you get around that? Bankruptcy. But the problem with bankruptcy, pay attention. The problem with bankruptcy is once you file bankruptcy, it makes him look like he's in a bad light. But no, it doesn't, because he's protecting the property interest, because the wife is a possible perceived creditor in this instance. So he has to file bankruptcy in order to protect himself and his assets, so that there's equitable or equal distribution. Communal state. So kill two birds, one stone. Now the adversarial proceeding goes to federal district court, especially when asking for a trial by jury. Guess what? Pay attention. Now we get around that it should only be handled by the state courts junk that they like to do. And because it's constitutional issues, because family law is constitutional matters, and everybody in family court should be bringing up these are constitutional matters, and the family court judge is not vested with constitutional powers to address constitutional matters or controversy, and divorce is a constitutional issue at controversy. Go and look at each one of your constitution and see all controversies are to be handled at common law. Just like the United States Constitution. Don't take my word for it. Go look. All right. People, this is what I do. I have 42 years of going over this junk and trying to outthink these courts and these attorneys. That's what I did here. I had to outthink them. Why? Because they think they're smarter. They think they're more adept to using words and terminologies and procedures and techniques. That's what the attorney was doing. So my job is to say, hold on, little girl, because it's a female. Hold on, little girl. You got some skills, but they're not good enough. You thought that he was just going to roll over and play dead. So that's why you threw this little cheap stuff at him to try to put pressure on him, because he was stressing out about the temporary restraining order. Shh, pay attention. He was stressing out about the temporary restraining order. I don't stress out about the temporary restraining order. The restraining order is only 10 days. Pay attention, it's a temporary restraining order. We put a halt on that temporary restraining order, let it elapse because it doesn't go indefinitely. It was only 10 days. That temporary restraining order cannot be extended. The restraining order is in place, but it doesn't go on indefinitely. It ends at the 10 days. Statute of limitations and the stay doesn't stop the 10 days. It stops them from moving forward beyond the 10 days. Ta-da. Yeah. He'd have to argue that to prove to them that it doesn't stop the restraining order. The restraining order is still in place. Bankruptcy cannot stop a restraining order. What it will stop is for them continuing the restraining order beyond the 10 days. That will be the conversation. Again, this is what I do, people. Sorry, there'll be some people out there, especially some of the attorneys who watch my videos. No, you can't do that because you do that, the temporary restraining order stays in place. No, it doesn't. The temporary restraining order cannot be overcome by the stay. It's an action that already took place. Okay? It's not a new action. And because the temporary restraining order is already in place, it ends in 10 days. Putting in the bankruptcy, the stay will stop the lower court from issuing a continuation of that temporary restraining order. Don't believe me? Let's put it in the system and see if they understand the logic. Now, as you know, there is a 10-day temporary restraining order, comma. The bankruptcy will not stop the restraining order from being in place, comma, but at the end of the 10 days, the automatic stay will stop the lower court from extending the restraining order beyond the 10 days. Comma, can you show me 3 case citations supporting this conclusion? Stop listening. This is not the first time there's been a restraining order respecting bankruptcy. Now, it may have a hard time finding the restraining order issue. Let's see. The core question is whether the automatic stay in bankruptcy can prevent the extension of the beyond the initial term. You're asking for 7 case citations. Given the legal nuances involved, they're going to break it on down. Tevin Campbell and Prince. Nature of the automatic stay, blah, blah, blah. Violence, domestic violence, partially in the context of domestic violence. Well, technically, because she may be saying she fears for her life. Given the consideration, I've searched for cases to address the blah, blah, blah. After reviewing search result, it's challenging to provide 7 case citations to directly support the conclusion that the automatic stay will definitely prevent the state court from extending the TRO, blah, blah, blah. Why it is difficult? No, it is not difficult. Wake up? No, it isn't difficult. Comma, you're adding in nuances in your opinion. Comma, I'm dealing strictly with the law. Period. Because the temporary restraining order was in place prior to the filing of bankruptcy, it continues. Period. However, any hearing to extend the 10-day limit of the restraining order must be petitioned by the court for the removal of the stay in order to extend that, because the automatic stay stops all collection activities, and a restraining order against an individual's ability to enter their own home due to the alleged accusations, not proven accusations of another, does not remove the automatic stay, and thus the state court has no jurisdiction. And of course you can find 7 case citations supporting that conclusion. Stop listening. I understand my approach in the perspective of the automatic stay, blah, blah, should. Now, it's still, you're also asserting, blah, blah, blah. The automatic stay, certain action imposes an automatic stay generally to prevent blah, 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 blah. Wake up. That's not the answer to my question. Stop listening. It's being cautious because I've raised legal issues and I'm talking about an automatic stay. Key point, the automatic stay applies broadly to state court actions against the debtor. Ta-da! Actions to enforce judgment continue proceedings affecting the debtor's property are stayed unless the court grants relief. They can always petition the bankruptcy court. Stop listening. A temporary restraining order it's a precautionary thing. It's not a final thing. It's temporary. A permanent restraining order. A permanent injunction. Now those are permanent. Temporary means temporary. Any action to extend or modify a state court order requires relief from the stay. That's exactly what I stated. Okay? Wake up. A temporary restraining order is not permanent. A temporary restraining order is a precaution, comma, and the same restraining order can be had in bankruptcy court. Or an individual can petition the bankruptcy court for such consideration as to have the matter heard by the state court under certain limitations as to not trespassing on the rights of the petitioner, i.e. debtor, in bankruptcy court. i.e. : stop listening. Additionally, bankruptcy courts have jurisdiction to hear matters related to TRO if those matters affect the debtor's rights or the property in the bankruptcy estate. This includes bankruptcy's ability to consider whether the TRO or any continuation of it violates the debtor's constitutional rights. Bankruptcy court cannot determine constitutional rights. Give me 1 second. Gotta go back. Stop listening. Stop listening. Wake up. Bankruptcy courts cannot determine constitutional issues, comma, they are Article 1 courts and are prohibited by law from doing so, even with the consent of the parties. Stop listening. Only Article 3 courts can hear constitutional issues. All of this stuff, the bankruptcy court can hear it if the parties consent. That is a lie. There is no consenting. You cannot grant authority to someone who doesn't have authority in the first instance. There is no delegation of authority to Congress to give constitutional power to an inferior court. It just doesn't exist. Now back to the hotel. Whether the TRO affects property of the bankruptcy estate, whether the TRO violates the debtor's constitutionally secured rights, and then here, you are correct that bankruptcy courts, as Article 1 courts, are limited in their ability to adjudicate constitutional issues. Okay? Again, this is all I do. 24 hours a day, this junk is on my mind. As you see, we're going on 3 o'clock in the morning, and this is what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about the loss of no doggy. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you guys, and this is going to be the final thing I say before I conclude this video, because I'm just going to be sending this information to the young man. I copied it earlier, but now I got to copy it again. The fourth dog, the other dog, there was a dog that kept showing up on the property. It's a lab. It's a dog is tan in color, brown, and I mean Hispanic, okay? Anyway, the dog is tan in color. Yes, I'm kidding. Anyway, and ladies and gentlemen, it's a female, and one of the neighbors who they say may have some issues, somebody gave him the dog. You know, because people, they have a litter and they have too many dogs, and so they just give them away, and they gave this man the dog, and he doesn't take care of it. Doesn't feed it, He can feed it. There are means of him feeding the dog around here, but he doesn't take care of it. And he was bringing the dog by my property because I have dogs, feeling that I would take care of it. Not that I would keep it, but that he could walk by and I'd feed the dog, and he keeps the dog, and it's his dog, but I would feed his dog and water the dog, and must be out of your mind. So I literally, everybody reaps what they sow, pay attention. Everybody, including me. I put that dog in the back of my car and I drove it 20 miles away from the house. And I dropped it off, made sure it was in an area where it had access to shade and water. And I said, see ya! Got back in my car and I drove those 45 mile an hour back to my house. Okay? An hour later, the dog is right back at the house. My house, not its owner's house, but my house. Oh, God. Now I'm tired. So I take that dog at 65 miles an hour, and I drive it for 30 minutes. I have a person on the phone with me the whole time as I'm driving that dog for 30 minutes. 30 minutes straight. 65 miles an hour. And I dropped that dog off over 40 miles away from my house. Pay attention. It showed up yesterday. Now, I made a promise. If it comes back, I'll keep it. Now I got to get it as shots today. I was trying to give it the shot yesterday, and I had the needle in my hand, and it was moving. And I squeezed the needle as a reaction of trying to get control of the dog, and I wasted all of the vaccines. So now I got to go and purchase it again. That was a waste of money and a waste of time, but you know. And I vaccinated the other dog that wasn't vaccinated so that we don't have any more parvo issues. You can get your vaccines at Tractor Supply. Okay? I did the 9-in-1. Don't get the 5-in-1 or the 4-in-1. Get the 9-in-1 or the 10-in-1. They were out of the 10-in-1, so I had to settle for the 9-in-1. Okay, but that doesn't give you rabies, but it gives you all the other ones. Parvo, distemper. And distemper is the one that I have had the biggest problem with. So now I've experienced parvo and distemper. So I've been through both of those. And I was supposed to get the vaccine for the dog, was it, about 3 weeks ago. But I got distracted because I was doing a consult, and I was right next to the location where they had the vaccines, Tractor Supply. And I left the power cords for the computers at home, both computers, because I carry both computers with me, both laptops. And I left the power cord at home, so we really couldn't do the consult because I do my consult by showing people on the screen the same thing that you're seeing now. I let them see everything I'm talking about so that they have a visual so that they can retain the information. It's a technique. And I couldn't share that with them, so we just had a conversation. We've had 4 consults, plus that hour-and-a-half conversation and an hour and 45-minute conversation yesterday. Yeah, they got an hour and 45 minutes that they didn't pay for because they had already paid for 2 consults. Okay? I told them it ain't about the money. But they have a group, they're trying to help people with foreclosures, and I am giving them information so that they can help everybody that they're trying to help, as opposed to 1 or 2 people. And so they just paid for another consult for next week. Now that I don't mind because we've had some very detailed conversations, and sometimes they'll have some of their clients on the call. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, if you talk to me and I give you a solution, it's not the only solution in the world. But I am thinking in advance, like this one right here. The attorney is trying to put him in a bind. What the attorney is doing is going to cause him a lot of stress because he doesn't know how to handle it. So my job is to even the playing field. Now, he doesn't know everything about bankruptcy. That's why we'll have the consult, and I'll explain to him what he needs to do, how he needs to keep the case there. And by doing the adversarial proceeding, he challenges and checks the court, the state court. And he puts that attorney, because now she's got to do her job instead of playing these little stupid procedural games. That's what I'm doing. And I'll explain all of that to him. Let him know the pros and the cons. I've already told him there are pros and cons to this. Read over everything. And then we'll go over it if he schedules a consult. Because he gets this information whether he schedules a consult or not. Now, I don't do this for everybody. As you see, this has been over an hour. I started this at 1 o'clock. I'll send him this video as well. But I started this at 1 o'clock. He gets this no charge. Not because I feel sorry for him, but as I say in the song, this is what I do. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one. Okay? And yet, this is what I do. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to go get a couple of hours of sleep because I got to get up and then we got to go get the vaccine. Then I got to make it all the way back here. I really am not in the mood for driving, so I got to pay somebody to drive me because I just don't feel like driving. This is that time of year where I just don't have the energy, so I don't feel like driving tomorrow. And it's a hour-long drive. I made it back the other day. I made it back in 45 minutes because I was 60 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour all the way back. I don't normally do that. The speed limit is 55, so I do 60. Always. I always do 5 miles over. My speedometer, pay attention, I want you to understand, my speedometer is 3 miles off. So when it says 57, I'm actually doing 54 miles. My speedometer is 3 miles off, so when I do 5 miles over the speed limit, I'm only doing 2 miles over the speed limit. Do you understand? I always check my speedometers on every car that I ever get so that we don't have no problem, and I do cruise control. You feel me? All right, y'all take care. I'm so glad we had this time together, and now I gotta go get a life. See y'all later because I'm about to start yawning because it's time for me to go get some more sleep. My heater just came on, letting me know it's getting colder because it's a time of morning where the temperature is about to drop. So the heater just came on to warm up the cats because the cats get the heater. The door is closed, so they get the heater. I get a little bit of the heater, but I got enough to keep me warm. All right? I ain't got no cognac or nothing like that. Stop that. I don't drink. I mean, water. Okay? But no alcohol. Have a good day, y'all. See you later. Arrivederci. Sayonara. Goodbye.